Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax. This is Lily. She's ridiculous. And today we're going to just quickly talk about the idea of coming out. I've done videos on this in the past before. Here, you can see Lily. I've done videos on coming out in the past, and basically there's some like standard advice that I'm going to give you, and then there's some like life advice that like people probably won't talk to you about, but I think it's important, especially when you're coming out and that kind of thing. Um, so, so here we go, basically. So first of all, I have been out of the closet for 7 years, somewhere around there. The standard advice for coming out is come out when you feel safe to do so. Only do it. Only tell people who are important to you. Don't feel the need to come out to people that, aren't relevant to your life. If you can, come out when you are independent. You're not dependent on anybody for anything. You are like an independent human being who doesn't need anybody, because sometimes you come out to somebody and they want to immediately cut contact. Sometimes they're hostile, so there's some standard advice like that I think has to be said with any video like this. It's just pretty standard stuff, really, boilerplate, as we say out here in Canada. The elements that nobody will tell you about, you will be coming out for the rest of your life. It isn't a one-time thing. I have been out for 7 years, and last weekend I came out to a friend, like it's what happens. Sometimes people don't know. Sometimes you meet new people, you encounter people. Sometimes you're, dealing with something and you have to do it again. So just be prepared that is going to be something that is part of your life forever. I have friends who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and they are still waiting to come out to various family members or people in their lives, that kind of thing. So understand that, yeah, it's a constant process. It is not a one and done thing. It would be so nice if it was, but it's just not. It's just a fact. So that's like one of the things that a lot of people won't tell you. I feel like some people will definitely tell you, but it's not one of those things that is like readily told. Another thing, don't feel like you have to come out at all. It's 2023. The idea that you have to come out and state your sexual orientation to anybody at any time just because, no. I've had people that have been actually offended that I never came out to them. They were like, why didn't you ever come out to me? I'm like, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that I had to. So that's kind of a funny thing. But yeah, you do not have to state your preferences to the world. For some reason, people think it's okay to ask gay people what they like to do in the bedroom. They like to ask gay people, who's the man in the relationship? Who's the woman in the relationship? These very stupid, unintelligent questions that don't have any consideration for the actual people involved. A lot of people will ask you this kind of stuff and think that it's appropriate to ask you these kinds of things. So don't feel like you have to. You can live your life, If you end up just bringing a boy home for Thanksgiving dinner or for Christmas or something one year, that can be your coming out. That can be your very quiet, like, this is who I am, this is what's happening. It does not have to be this overt ceremony. Another piece of advice, you don't have to do it in person. You do not have to come out to anybody in person. I came out to both my parents over the phone, and when I tell people that, they're either like, oh, that's so sweet, or they're like, really? Like, don't you want it to be special? And no, I didn't want it to be special. I didn't want it to change how my parents saw me. I knew they were both going to be totally fine with it because I know my parents, but the idea that like it's got to be this big ceremony and, like, sure, if you want it to be that thing, then absolutely, like, go ahead. But you don't have to if you don't want it. If you just want it to be like a phone call or an email or whatever, just make sure you phrase it in the way that you're comfortable with it being recorded or whatever, just make sure that you are comfortable that like displaying it or saying that way. but you don't have to do it any specific way. You don't have to come out at all. There are things like that that just are irrelevant. Um, Another aspect of coming out that is like, I don't know, it's one of the things I thought about a lot before I came out was like, man, is this going to change me? Is this going to change who I am? The real answer to that is maybe and probably. So I was really worried before I came out, like, oh man, is this going to change how people see me? Um, I was never into drag race or pride parades or any of that stuff before. I'm still not really into any of that stuff now because I didn't let it sort of change my opinion or anything. But the idea that coming out has to change your personality or anything. Mm-mm. One of the things that my parents both remember from me talking to them over the phone when I was saying like, "Oh, I'm gay," is they said, "It's interesting like you said, this doesn't change who I am. Like I'm still the person that, I'm still your son. I'm still, this exact person." And I think that was like a really big part of my coming out is I didn't want it to like change me in any way. It allowed me to be more free with who I was. Like it allowed me to express myself in a way that I was really comfortable with and that I wanted to, but it didn't change my behavior. It didn't make me feel like I had to act a certain way or I had to project certain feelings or anything like that. Like I really just got to stay as me, like who I am. So I really appreciate that. But like you can allow it to change yourself. I mean, if you're somebody who like loves musical theater and dancing and singing and all this stuff, but you feel like you can't tell your parents that, and then you come out, your parents accept you, then you can like you no longer have to hide that part of you, right? Or maybe you feel like that. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just leave that for yourself, but it's totally up to you. It doesn't have to be this big thing. And I don't know. I kind of rebel against that whole idea that coming out is this big process. It can be, especially if you're really worried about a reaction that you're going to get from a family member or something. But coming out doesn't have to change anything about who you are, how you see the world, who you want to be. Um, so yeah, just please realize that. And like, yeah, I think people make a really big deal of it nowadays. And you can definitely make a big deal out of it if you want it to be. I mean, we gays are quite dramatic, which is fine. People can deal with it. I've always been a dramatic person. But if you don't want that, it doesn't have to be that. Like it can really be what you want. Like, guess what? It's your life and you get to live it the way you want. So, yeah. The way I did it is I came out to both my parents over the phone, and then I told each of them that it was their sort of like responsibility to tell their sides of the family that, oh yeah, Jack's gay, like blah blah blah. And I said to them like, if any of the family members that you tell are upset or they seem like hostile towards it, just let them know that like I don't have to see them again. I'm good. I don't want anybody in my life who doesn't accept who I am and accept me for me. So you can just like let that be really honest. Obviously that's coming from like a place of privilege because I'm not beholden to any of my family members, and so I could say to my parents, yeah, just let them know like I'm not interested in seeing them again afterwards. Some people don't have that luxury, but I was an independent human being when I came out, and so I had the power and I had the ability to just say like, if you don't accept me, just leave, just get out of my life. Um, and that's not always the case in families or in your situation. But that's why I really advocate for only coming out when you are independent and you can stand on your own, because you really don't want to be dependent on somebody and then come out and then you kind of have to walk on eggshells, or you have to be careful, or you have to hide who you are in front of your grandfather or whatever. Like there's lots of situations like that, but just try and look at it holistically. It's one of those things that like I thought about for a long time. I overthought about it. I like made up situations in my head and thought, well, if they say this, then maybe I could say that. And so you will have thought through this process quite thoroughly. So just do your best. Obviously it's your life, so you're the best one to sort of think these things through and make the decisions. But this is just some like very cursory, very surface level advice that I would give to anybody who is thinking about coming out. Another good piece of advice is come out to somebody you know is going to have a good reaction first. So, you know, your best friend, like a close cousin, um, a relative that's really got your back. Maybe if your mom is like one of your best friends, like do that. And you kind of learn. It's funny, like the more you come out, the more you learn of like what you should say and what you shouldn't say and the best way to approach it. And like honestly, you will come out in different ways because the way I came out to my parents was very different than the way I came out to my best friends and even like my cousins and stuff. Like I was very different and I handled it in different ways. And you kind of know, like, I think we all speak a little bit differently to our parents than we do to our grandparents or our best friends. You know, we talk in different ways. And so you're going to realize like how best to communicate with them and to sort of understand where they're coming from and where you're coming from. So yeah, that's kind of my advice. Take it or leave it. Like please, like leave comments. If you need resources, always check out. There's things like the Trevor Project, which you can Google. In Canada, there are many like LGBT alliance groups, and there's lots of Lily's just being Lily. There's lots of different resources you can reach out to. Careful with Googling stuff, just, you know, online you get a lot of crazy information, but definitely leave your comments and your stories down below. If you have any advice of like what you should or shouldn't do, feel free to leave it. Make sure to just be compassionate about it. Obviously, this is a sensitive subject for a lot of people. There's a lot of people in the world who haven't come out yet. So, yeah, let's just be like respectful to them and realize that not all of us have the same experiences. We all come from different places. So just lead with compassion. And thank you guys so much for watching. So I will say cheerio from me, and I don't know where Lily went, but she says bye too, loves you. And as always, guys, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.